This week, headlines across Britain declared a victory. Digital ID scrapped. Government forced into a U-turn. A win for personal freedom. Millions of people celebrated. Nearly 3 million had signed a petition opposing mandatory digital identification. Politicians from across the spectrum claimed success. But beneath the headlines, something very different was happening. Because digital ID wasn't cancelled. It was simply rebranded. The government did not abandon digital identity systems. What it removed, at least for now, was one specific requirement, that people must carry a single, government-issued digital ID card. Instead, officials confirmed that digital right-to-work checks are still planned for 2029. Systems are still being built. The apps are still being developed. The biometric databases are still expanding. Only the packaging changed. The infrastructure never stopped. Behind the scenes, a quiet construction project has been underway. More than £340 million in contracts have already been signed. A central login system for all government services continues its development. A government wallet app is in the works. Digital driving licenses and identity credentials are all planned. You see, the card was dropped, not the machine, and that's where the real story begins. To understand what's really going on, you have to follow the money. Much of the work has been outsourced to major consulting firms. Large technology contractors now operate deep inside our public services, from healthcare to welfare. And now, identity verification. Contracts have repeatedly grown in value, often expanding well beyond their original scope. Some firms have received tens of millions of pounds for delivery support, system design, facial recognition, and fraud detection. And once this system exists, something important changes. The government doesn't verify your identity. Private companies do. Under the current framework, dozens of approved companies are authorized to confirm who you are. Every time an employer checks a worker, every time a landlord verifies a tenant, every time age verification is required, a fee is charged. Individually, the amounts seem small, but across the entire working population, the industry already generates billions in revenue each year. Your identity becomes a transaction, and many of the companies involved are owned or backed by overseas investors and private equity firms. The business of you is booming. So, with so much at stake, you'd expect the oversight to be airtight. But in 2025, something remarkable happened. One of the core biometric providers, a company responsible for facial recognition, allowed its government certification to expire. For a period of time, a system used by millions was technically operating without proper approval. This issue wasn't announced publicly. It emerged quietly through industry reporting. Certification was later restored. But the moment raised an uncomfortable question. If authorities can lose track of their own identity contractors, what exactly are citizens being asked to trust? This wasn't an isolated incident. Multiple warnings were raised during the system's development. Cybersecurity specialists flagged serious risks, including large-scale data breaches, impersonation attacks, and the exposure of sensitive individuals. Internal advisors reportedly recommended pausing the deployment altogether. Those recommendations were not followed. Even under official assessments, the system still falls short of standards normally expected for national critical infrastructure. In simulated cyber, testers found vulnerabilities so serious that the full technical details were withheld from publication. In plain terms, your access could potentially be compromised without anyone even detecting it. As development continued, another familiar pattern emerged: the revolving door. Senior officials left government roles and soon reappeared in private technology firms. Consultancies that were advising political parties later won lucrative government contracts. Former decision-makers returned as external partners or executives. Each move was approved. Each followed the rules. But collectively, they formed a cycle we see time and time again. Government builds, staff leave. Consultancies grow, contracts return. A closed loop of influence and profit. Supporters of digital ID often argue that it's harmless because it begins as optional. But other countries show us what tends to happen next. In India, a voluntary biometric ID was introduced to help people access welfare. Over time, it became required for banking, phone services, education, and even food distribution. When biometric checks failed, some families were locked out of basic necessities. In Australia, digital identity systems expanded rapidly across public services. In Estonia, digital ID became unavoidable, required for healthcare, banking, and even voting. In each case, the pattern was the same. Optional becomes embedded, and embedded becomes unavoidable. The timing of these policies is also telling. Just 2 days before the UK's mandatory digital ID was first announced, a major policy think tank released a report strongly promoting it. That same organization receives significant funding from technology interests that also hold major government contracts. Coincidence? Perhaps, but in the world of policy and big business, timing matters. So what really happened this week? The government didn't cancel digital ID. It stepped back from one single requirement, temporarily, to reduce public opposition. Officials were quite candid about the strategy. It wasn't to resolve concerns, but to deflate them. The infrastructure continues. The contracts continue. The systems continue. And when the decision is finally made, maybe next year or in 5 years, everything will already be in place. The truth is, Britain already has a digital identity infrastructure. Millions of us are already enrolled in it. The real question is not if it exists. It's whether anyone will notice the moment when optional quietly becomes required. Because when that moment comes, the systems will be ready. The only thing missing will be public attention. Thanks for watching. If you found this information valuable, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more deep dives into the stories that shape our world.